Scene 1, the Impedance Matching Illusion. Welcome to the 8th lecture of our wave mechanics series. For half a century, the materials science community has been trapped in a singular, unquestioned dogma, the impedance matching theory of microwave absorption. According to this consensus, the absorption peak of a film is determined strictly by the impedance matching condition, absolute value of input impedance Zin equals the characteristic impedance of free space Z0. They claim that the more incident microwave penetrates into the material, the greater its attenuation, and thus the stronger the absorption peak. Furthermore, as explicitly claimed in Figure 7 of M. Chow's highly cited 2018 Journal of Materials Chemistry C paper on graphene nanohybrids, they believe that the weaker the wave reflected back from the rear interface, the stronger the absorption peak. It sounds perfectly logical. More penetration plus less back reflection should equal maximum dissipation, right? Wrong. This represents a fundamental misunderstanding of classical electromagnetism. It is a mathematical illusion that confuses the properties of bulk materials with the boundary value mechanics of a physical device. Today, we dismantle this 50-year-old error with absolute mathematical logic. Scene 2, Wave Coherence versus the Penetration Dogma. In our two-part treatise published in Surfaces and Interfaces in 2023, we presented the absolute mathematical refutation of this dogma. Using rigorous numerical simulations of the classical reflection loss (RL) formulas, we proved a counterintuitive truth: allowing more incident microwave to enter the material does not guarantee a stronger absorption peak. Similarly, maximizing the material's attenuation capacity does not guarantee a stronger peak. In fact, we demonstrated that even when the incident wave entering the material is extremely small, and when the material's attenuation capacity is practically negligible, the film can still produce a phenomenally strong, near-perfect absorption peak. How is this possible? Because the strength of an absorption peak is not a bulk material property. It is determined entirely by wave coherence and phase cancellation between the waves reflected from the front and rear boundaries. The mainstream has confused the monotonic attenuation of a bulk medium with the waveplane interference of a finite device. By treating the film as a material rather than a boundary value device, they completely missed the true physical mechanism. Scene 3, the Paradox of Energy Conservation. Let us take this logic to its absolute physical limits. In our paper published in Materials Chemistry and Physics in 2022, we derived the rigorous relationship between energy conservation and boundary reflections. The mathematical proof is beautiful and entirely undeniable. Due to the strict conservation of energy, the overall absorption peak of a backed film reaches its maximum strength only when the wave reflected back from the rear interface, which we define as the amplitude, R2, reaches its absolute maximum. Let that sink in. Mainstream journals claim that rear reflection must be minimized to maximize absorption. But basic electromagnetics proves the exact opposite: the peak can only exist through the cancellation of two strong, balanced waves. If the rear reflection is weak, it can never cancel the front reflection, and you get no peak. This is why, as we explicitly marked in Figure 4.8 of our 2024 Elsevier book chapter, the absorption peak never occurs at a Zin equals Z0. This glaring mismatch is visible in literally every single experimentally reported paper in materials science history. Hundreds of authors published plots showing this discrepancy, yet not a single reviewer or editor caught it. They looked at the data, saw that the peak didn't match a Zin equals Z0, and continued to write impedance matching is satisfied anyway. This is not science. It is blind ritual. Scene 4, Experimental Cargo Cults and PHOW Philosophy. When we submitted these rigorous logical proofs, how did the peer review cartel respond? They did not find a single mathematical error. Instead, they rejected our work, saying, the dielectric constants and magnetic permeabilities used in your simulations are not measured from real materials. Because we dared to negate the 50-year consensus, they closed the doors. This is a textbook example of cargo cult science. It represents a deeply flawed philosophical view that experiment is the sole standard for testing a theory. If a theory is logically and mathematically inconsistent on its own, it is already false. You do not need to build a physical device to prove that 1 + 1 = 5 is wrong. In our Applied Physics A paper, we showed that the phase difference is the absolute indicator of wave interference, which can be plotted deterministically. Rejecting pure mathematical proofs because they don't feature a measured sample is like a medieval court refusing to look through Galileo's telescope because the glass wasn't ground by an authorized church craftsman. Scene 5: The disciplinary victory of wave mechanics. To protect their monopoly, mainstream scientists launched a counterattack. They argued, for different materials, the reflection loss curves are different, therefore material properties must decide absorption. Of course, different materials have different curves, the complex permittivity and permeability dictate the speed and phase of the wave. But the impedance matching theory has never understood how that absorption occurs. Only the wave mechanics theory of microwave absorption provides the correct physical explanation. It models the wave interference exactly, and places material attenuation in its proper, supporting role. Furthermore, as we proved in our Journal of Applied Physics 2023 paper and Physica Scripta 2022 paper, even in the extreme case where wave interference cannot occur, such as when the wave enters the film completely without front boundary reflection, there is no absorption peak. The wave simply decays monotonically. Wave mechanics describes this flat state flawlessly, while the impedance matching theory completely collapses, predicting a sharp peak that doesn't exist. The verdict of history is clear. Consensus cannot change the laws of physics. Stand with math, stand with wave mechanics, and refuse the scholarly alchemy. Read the complete publications on Substack and SSRN. Thank you for watching.